In a small high school office in rural Ohio, Sarah Douglas sat across from Michael Brown, a junior who dreamed bigger than his circumstances suggested he should. Scattered across her desk were his academic records, mostly B's and C's, with a few standout A's in science. Comment where you're watching from today, as we share a story about how a single moment can change someone's future forever. The autumn light filtered through the dusty blinds as Sarah shuffled through Michael's college application papers. Her expression shifted from concern to barely concealed dismissal. "Michael, I appreciate your ambition, but we need to be realistic here. Your test scores and family background, well, they suggest we should look at more practical options." Michael's shoulders tensed, but his voice remained steady. "Ms. Douglas, I understand my grades aren't perfect, but I've been working 2 jobs while helping care for my younger siblings. I know I can handle the coursework if given the chance." Sarah sighed, tapping her pen against the desk calendar. "Listen, I've been doing this for 15 years. Students from your economic situation rarely succeed at elite universities. Maybe consider the local community college or trade school." The conversation might have ended there, crushing another young person's dreams, if not for an unexpected knock at the door. Usha Vance, who had been invited to speak at the school's career day, stood in the doorway. She had arrived early and couldn't help but overhear the exchange. What happened next would not only change Michael's life, but would also transform how Sarah Douglas viewed her role as a counselor. The tension in the room was palpable as Usha stepped forward, her presence commanding attention without demanding it. "May I join you?" Usha asked, her warm smile masking the steel in her voice. "I couldn't help but overhear, and I think I might have some relevant experience to share." Sarah's face flushed as she recognized the accomplished woman standing before her. Here was someone who had defied similar prejudices, who had risen to prominence despite others' low expectations. The story of what happened in that office would soon spread throughout the school, teaching a powerful lesson about judging potential based on circumstance. But first, Usha was about to share some wisdom that would leave both Sarah and Michael speechless. Have you ever been underestimated because of your background? Share your story in the comments below, and let's continue this important conversation about breaking barriers and defying expectations. The atmosphere in the small office shifted as Usha Vance took a seat beside Michael Brown, her presence bringing an air of quiet authority that made Sarah Douglas unconsciously sit straighter in her chair. The worn leather of the visitor's chair creaked softly as Usha settled in, her eyes warm but determined as she surveyed the scattered papers on the desk. "Ms. Douglas," Usha began, her voice carrying the weight of personal experience, "I couldn't help but notice the similarity between Michael's situation and my own story. When I was his age, another counselor sat across from me, just as you are now, telling me to be realistic about my dreams." Sarah's face flushed deeper as she recognized the gentle rebuke in Usha's words. The distinguished woman continued, "That counselor like you thought they were doing me a favor by lowering my expectations. They looked at my family's economic status, at my parents who worked multiple jobs, at my less than perfect grades earned while helping raise my siblings, and decided my path should be limited." Michael sat straighter, his eyes fixed on Usha as she spoke. The autumn light streaming through the window seemed to brighten, casting a warm glow over the scene as she shared her story. "But here's what that counselor didn't see," Usha continued, pulling out her phone and showing them a photo. "This is my old high school transcript, not so different from Michael's, is it? B's and C's, with those A's in science that showed where my passion lay, just like Michael." Sarah leaned forward, her professional demeanor cracking slightly as she studied the image. The parallels were undeniable, and something in her expression began to shift. What that counselor couldn't measure, Usha went on, was determination. They couldn't quantify the resilience built through helping family while maintaining grades. They couldn't calculate the problem-solving skills developed when managing 2 jobs and schoolwork. These aren't disadvantages, Ms. Douglas. They're strengths. The office fell silent as her words sank in. Outside, students passed in the hallway, their muffled voices a reminder of countless other young people whose futures hung in the balance. Of such conversations, let me tell you about Amanda Roberts, Usha said, referencing a former student she'd mentored. She was told the same thing, that her dreams were too big. Today, she's leading research at a major university. Or James Miller, who worked 3 jobs to help his single mother. He just finished his residency at Johns Hopkins. Sarah began to shuffle through Michael's papers again, but this time with different eyes. The B's and C's now told a story of persistence, rather than limitation. The after-school jobs, listed in his activities section, spoke of responsibility and time management instead of distraction from academics. Ms. Douglas, Usha spoke softly but firmly. When we look at students like Michael, we need to see their potential through the lens of their determination, not their circumstances. Every great achievement in history started with someone refusing to accept the limitations others placed on them. Michael, who had been quietly absorbing every word, finally spoke. Mrs. Vance, how did you handle it? The doubt, I mean. Not just from others, but sometimes from yourself? Usha's smile widened as she turned to him. That's an excellent question, Michael. The doubt never really goes away. It just becomes part of your fuel. Every time someone said I couldn't, I added their words to my motivation. She reached into her briefcase and pulled out a small notebook. I kept a journal of every no I received, every dismissal, every raised eyebrow. On tough days, I read through it to remind myself of how far I'd come. Would you like to know what I wrote on the last page? Both Michael and Sarah nodded, completely engrossed. I wrote, thank you to everyone who said I couldn't. You made sure I did. Usha handed the notebook to Michael. This is for you. Start your own journal. Let every doubt become a stepping stone. Sarah cleared her throat, emotion making her voice slightly husky. Mrs. Vance, I need to apologize to both of you. Sometimes we fall into patterns of thinking that limit not just our students, but ourselves as educators. No apology needed, Usha responded warmly. Instead, let's talk about Michael's applications. I notice he's particularly interested in biochemistry. Did you know there are several specialized scholarship programs for students balancing family responsibilities with academic pursuits? The next hour transformed into a strategy session. Sarah pulled up databases she hadn't accessed in years, showing a newfound enthusiasm as they explored opportunities she'd previously overlooked. Michael took notes furiously as Usha shared insights about application essays that could turn his life experiences into compelling narratives. Your story of managing work and family while maintaining your grades? That's not a disadvantage to explain away, Usha emphasized. It's a testament to your capability to handle complex responsibilities, exactly what top universities are looking for. As they worked, other students passed by the office window, some glancing in curiously at the unusual scene. Word would soon spread about what was happening in the counselor's office, how Usha Vance had turned a moment of dismissal into an opportunity for transformation. Remember, Usha said as they wrapped up, grades and test scores are just one part of the story. Universities are increasingly looking for students who bring diverse experiences and perspectives. Your journey, Michael, has equipped you with insights many of your peers don't have. Sarah was now pulling out additional forms, her earlier dismissive attitude replaced by genuine engagement. Michael, I'd like to schedule another meeting for next week. There are several scholarship opportunities we should explore. and I have some ideas about your essay structure." The transformation in the counselor was as remarkable as the hope now shining in Michael's eyes. It was clear that this afternoon would have ripple effects far beyond one student's college applications. "Mrs. Vance," Michael said as they prepared to leave, "thank you, not just for today, but for showing me what's possible." Usha stood, straightening her jacket. "Thank you for having the courage to hold on to your dreams, even when others doubted them. That's the first test of success, and you've already passed it." As they left the office, Sarah called out, "Michael, would you be willing to help me start a peer mentoring program? I think other students could benefit from hearing your story." The smile that spread across Michael's face was answer enough. In that moment, it was clear that this wasn't just about one student's future anymore. It was about changing the way an entire school thought about potential. Outside the office, the hallway was beginning to fill with students heading to their next classes. Among them were future doctors, researchers, entrepreneurs, all carrying dreams that needed nurturing rather than limitation. Thanks to what had transpired in that small office, more of those dreams now had a chance to flourish. Usha watched as Michael joined the stream of students, his posture noticeably different, shoulders back, head high, walking with the confidence of someone who knew their worth. She turned to Sarah, who was still standing in her doorway, thoughtful. "Sometimes," Usha said softly, "the greatest gift we can give our students is the permission to prove us wrong." Sarah nodded, understanding the deeper meaning. As Usha walked away, she could hear the counselor already on the phone, advocating for another student whose dreams might have previously seemed too ambitious. The autumn sun continued to stream through the windows, but now it seemed to illuminate a different school, one where potential was measured not by circumstances, but by determination, resilience, and the courage to dream big. Word of what happened in Sarah Douglas's office spread quickly through the halls of Lincoln High School. By the following week, the impact of Usha Vance's intervention had sparked a transformation that no one could have predicted. The story seemed to take on a life of its own, passed from student to student, teacher to teacher, each retelling adding to its significance. Michael Brown's experience became a catalyst for change. But it wasn't just about one student anymore. The shift began subtly at first, like ripples in a still pond. Sarah Douglas's office, once a place where dreams were carefully managed and expectations kept realistic, had become a hub of possibility. Jennifer Miller, a freshman with similar circumstances to Michael's, was the first to notice the change. When she entered Sarah's office that Monday morning, she found the counselor's walls newly decorated with college acceptance letters from previous students, success stories that had been tucked away in files, now proudly displayed as beacons of possibility. "Tell me about your dreams," Sarah said to Jennifer, the words feeling fresh and powerful on her tongue. "Not what you think is possible, what you want to achieve." The conversation that followed was nothing like the one Michael had encountered just a week before. When Jennifer mentioned her interest in engineering despite her struggling grades in math, Sarah didn't dismiss the idea. Instead, she pulled out a list of tutoring resources and summer programs that Usha had helped her compile. Meanwhile, Michael's story continued to unfold. With Usha's guidance and Sarah's renewed support, his college applications were taking shape. His essay, which now proudly detailed his experience balancing work and family responsibilities, had become a powerful narrative about resilience and determination. Robert Wilson, the chemistry teacher who had always seen potential in Michael, stopped by Sarah's office one afternoon. "I heard what happened with Usha Vance," he said, settling into the chair where so many students' futures had been discussed. "You know, I've been teaching here for 20 years, and I've seen countless students like Michael, brilliant minds, hidden behind circumstance." Sarah nodded, remembering how many times she had advised such students to be practical rather than ambitious. "I've been thinking about that a lot lately," she replied. "How many dreams did we clip before they had a chance to fly?" The conversation led to action. Together, they developed a new mentorship program, pairing struggling students with teachers who could nurture their specific interests. Amy Taylor, a senior with perfect grades but limited financial resources, was connected with Elizabeth Chang, an alumni who had overcome similar obstacles to become a successful researcher. As the weeks passed, the change in the school's atmosphere became palpable. Students who had once hidden their aspirations began speaking them aloud. Thomas Lawrence, a junior working 2 jobs like Michael, started a study group for other students balancing work and school. The group met in the library after hours, sharing strategies and support. Usha Vance's influence extended beyond that initial intervention. She began making regular visits to the school, speaking not just to the high achievers, but to any student who needed to hear that their circumstances didn't define their potential. Her presence became a reminder that success stories often begin in unexpected places. One particularly memorable afternoon, she organized a panel discussion featuring successful professionals who had overcome similar barriers. Among them was David Brown, no relation to Michael, who had risen from poverty to become a respected surgeon. His words resonated through the auditorium. The greatest obstacle isn't poverty or circumstance. It's believing those who say you can't succeed because of them. The impact reached beyond the students. Teachers began re-examining their own assumptions. Patricia Walker, who taught English, realized she had been unconsciously grading students differently based on their backgrounds. The revelation led her to implement blind grading, focusing solely on the work itself rather than the student's circumstances. Sarah's office became a different kind of space. The dusty blinds were opened wide, letting in natural light. The walls, once sparsely decorated with generic motivational posters, now displayed success stories and resources. A new bulletin board featured scholarship opportunities and summer programs, with post-it notes marking application deadlines. The transformation wasn't without its challenges. Some faculty members, like Richard Johnson, initially resisted the change, arguing that raising expectations too high would only lead to disappointment. But as success stories began to emerge, even the skeptics found their positions softening. One day, while reviewing Michael's latest essay draft, Sarah received an unexpected email. It was from Amanda Harris, a former student she had advised to be realistic 5 years ago. Amanda had ignored the advice, pursued her dreams anyway, and was now completing her master's degree at MIT. The email read, "I succeeded despite the limitations placed on me, but I often wonder how many others gave up because they believed what they were told about their potential." The message hit Sarah hard, but it also reinforced her commitment to the new approach. She printed the email and added it to her wall, a reminder of both past mistakes and present possibilities. The school's principal, James Anderson, took notice of the changes. What had started in one counselor's office was now influencing school policy. He approved funding for additional college prep resources and established a new program to help working students balance their responsibilities with academic pursuits. Michael's original application story had evolved into something larger. Students began sharing their own stories of overcoming obstacles, creating a network of support and inspiration. Jessica Williams, a sophomore whose parents hadn't attended college, started a first-generation college aspirants club with Michael as its first mentor. The change was reflected in the numbers too. College application rates began to rise, particularly among students from challenging backgrounds. Sarah started keeping a different kind of statistics, not just acceptance rates, but stories of students who dared to reach beyond what they'd originally thought possible. Usha Vance's impact continued to resonate. she worked with Sarah to establish a scholarship fund specifically for students balancing work and family responsibilities with their studies. The first recipient would be chosen the following year, but its very existence sent a powerful message. Your circumstances are not obstacles, but testimonies to your strength. As the semester progressed, the school's culture shifted. The question was no longer whether students could succeed, but how to help them overcome the specific challenges they faced. Resource lists were compiled, mentorship networks established, and support systems strengthened. One afternoon, as Sarah was updating her wall of success stories, she found Michael's original application papers, the ones she had been so quick to dismiss. She added them to the display, but not as a reminder of past mistakes. Instead, they served as a marker of transformation, both for the school and for herself. The story of that autumn day when Usha Vance walked into her office became part of the school's narrative, retold to each new class of students as an example of how single moments can spark lasting change. But more importantly, it became a reminder that potential exists everywhere, waiting only for someone to recognize and nurture it. As the semester drew to a close, Sarah received another visit from Michael. He carried news, his first college acceptance letter. As they celebrated together, she noticed something else had changed. The way he carried himself, the confidence in his voice, the certainty in his dreams. He had become living proof of what Usha Vance had said that day, that determination and resilience were qualities no transcript could fully measure. 5 years after Usha Vance's transformative visit to Lincoln High School, the ripple effects of that autumn day had grown into waves of change. The school's annual alumni gathering became a testament to what happens when potential is recognized and nurtured rather than limited by circumstance. Michael Brown, now in his final year of biochemistry, studies at a prestigious university, stood at the podium in the school's renovated auditorium. The same room where he had once sat quietly, doubting his dreams, now filled with current students eager to hear his story. His voice carried confidence as he addressed the crowd. 5 years ago, I sat where you're sitting now, believing what I'd been told about the limitations of my circumstances, he began. Then one day, 2 women changed my life. One was Usha Vance, who showed me what was possible. The other was Ms. Douglas, who learned to see potential where others saw obstacles. Sarah Douglas, still serving as the school's counselor but with a completely different approach, sat in the front row. Her office had become known as the Possibility Room, and students now sought her out not to have their dreams tempered, but to find ways to achieve them. The success stories had multiplied. Over the years, Jennifer Miller, the freshman who had been one of the first to benefit from the school's transformation, was now studying engineering at MIT. Thomas Lawrence had graduated from Stanford and returned to establish a foundation helping working students pursue higher education. Usha Vance's influence had extended far beyond that initial visit. The scholarship fund she helped establish had grown significantly, now supporting multiple students each year. More importantly, her example had inspired a network of successful professionals who regularly returned to mentor current students. The school's statistics told a compelling story. College acceptance rates had risen dramatically, particularly among students from challenging backgrounds, but the numbers only told part of the story. The real transformation was in the school's culture, in the way dreams were nurtured rather than dismissed. Sarah's office walls, once sparsely decorated, now showcased hundreds of success stories. Each acceptance letter, each graduation photo, each career achievement represented a dream that might have been cut short under the old way of thinking. The dusty blinds had been replaced with clear windows, symbolizing the transparency and possibility that now characterized her counseling approach. As Michael continued his speech, he shared how his journey had inspired others. His younger sister, Emily Brown, now a junior at Lincoln High, had started a peer mentoring program. The program paired working students with alumni who had balanced similar responsibilities during their high school years. The transformation hadn't stopped at Lincoln High's gates. Other schools in the district had taken notice, implementing similar programs and approaches. Sarah had become a sought-after speaker at educational conferences, sharing how one conversation had sparked a revolution in student counseling. Richard Johnson, once skeptical of the new approach, had become one of its strongest advocates. His math classroom now featured stories of scientists and mathematicians who had overcome significant obstacles. "It's not about lowering standards," he often said. "It's about providing the support needed to reach them." The annual Career Day had evolved into a week-long celebration of possibility. Successful alumni from diverse backgrounds returned to share their stories, host workshops, and connect with current students. The event always began with the reading of Usha Vance's journal entry. "Thank you to everyone who said I couldn't. You made sure I did." Principal James Anderson had implemented systematic changes to support working students. Flexible scheduling options, online resources, and additional tutoring support ensured that family responsibilities didn't have to mean educational compromises. The school had become a model for others looking to better serve their diverse student populations. The mentorship network had grown exponentially. Alumni like Amanda Harris, who had once been discouraged from pursuing their dreams, now returned regularly to mentor current students. Their stories served as powerful reminders that circumstances need not define destiny. Jessica Williams's first-generation college aspirants club had become one of the school's largest organizations. They maintained a database of resources, scholarship opportunities, and support services. More importantly, they provided a community where students could share their challenges and celebrations. As Michael concluded his speech, he introduced a surprise guest, Usha Vance herself. She walked onto the stage to thunderous applause, her presence still commanding the same quiet authority it had 5 years ago in Sarah's office. "When I walked into that office 5 years ago," Usha began, "I saw something familiar. I saw a young person being told to limit their dreams based on their circumstances. But what I really saw was an opportunity to break a cycle." She went on to announce a new initiative, the Possibility Pipeline, a comprehensive program providing support from high school through college graduation for students facing similar challenges to those Michael had overcome. The afternoon continued with breakout sessions where current students could connect with alumni who had faced similar obstacles. In one room, David Brown, the surgeon who had spoken years ago, conducted a workshop on maintaining academic excellence while managing family responsibilities. Sarah Douglas hosted a session for other school counselors, sharing how her perspective had changed. "We're not here to manage expectations," she told them. "We're here to provide the support needed to exceed them." The day concluded with a ceremony honoring the first graduates of what had become known as the Vance Vision, students who had refused to let their circumstances define their potential. Among them was Michael's sister Emily, who had already been accepted to 3 top-tier universities. As the event wound down, Sarah found herself back in her office with Usha and Michael. The space had changed dramatically over the years, but the spirit of that first transformative conversation remained. "Look at this," Sarah said, pulling out Michael's original college application. "I almost stopped this story before it began." "But you didn't," Usha replied. "You learned and grew, and in doing so you helped countless others grow too." Michael smiled, adding, "And now we're all part of something bigger." Every student who walks through that door knows their dreams have value. The sun was setting outside, casting long shadows through the clear windows. In the warm light, Sarah could see the faces in the photos on her walls, hundreds of students who had dared to dream big and found the support they needed to achieve those dreams. "You know what the best part is?" Michael said, looking at the newest additions to the wall. "These stories aren't exceptions anymore. They're becoming the rule." As they prepared to leave, a knock came at the door. A sophomore student, carrying a familiar look of determination mixed with uncertainty, asked if she could speak with Miss Douglas about her college dreams. Sarah smiled, gesturing for the student to enter. "Come in," she said. "Tell me about your dreams, all of them. No dream is too big in this room." The story that began with one conversation in a small office had grown into a movement, changing not just individual lives, but the very culture of educational possibility. And as the sun set on another day at Lincoln High School, somewhere another student was learning that their circumstances were not limitations, but stepping stones to success. This wasn't just a story about one student, one counselor, or one inspirational figure. It was a story about the power of believing in potential, about the importance of support and mentorship, and about how changing one person's perspective can ultimately transform an entire community. The legacy of that autumn day continued to grow, one student, one dream, one success story at a time.